Hi everyone, we have Gene is back. Everyone's asked for Gene, and I have to do some of the news because this is my video for Friday. So here we go. Nancy Pelosi signs document for John Bolton subpoena. So they're not going to stop with this harassment of our POTUS, okay? And here's more news. We have Hamas co-founder dies after accidentally shooting himself in the head. Right. One of the founders of Hamas died Tuesday, weeks after accidentally shooting himself in the head, according to reports. Ahmad al-Almi, 62, was examining his personal weapon in his home when it inadvertently went off in his face. January 9th, the militant Palestinian group says. He was rushed to Gaza City's Shafa Hospital in critical condition. Al-Murni remained there on life support until his death on Tuesday. The Jerusalem Post reports. Okay, and one last thing. Last but not least, we have YouTube that is been 2 days now. They refuse to give me the 16.9, which I know I have way more than that, but I was at 16.917. So they never refused it to go to from 16.8 to 16.9. But you know, I need to expose them. I'm so tired of it. I'm really tired, but you know what? It's just really burning me out. Anyway, so here we go. We have Gene. We're gonna start with we're gonna go into the DUMBS first, I guess. And then we're going to talk about the coronavirus, which it's the real number is about 150,000 dead and 250,000 infected. So shall we go into the DUMBS first, you think?
Yes, whatever you'd like, Kirsten.
I mean, whatever you think is more interesting.
It's up to you.
Whatever, I am flexible. Shall we go to the DUMBS first, I guess? The DUMBS is shorter.
Yeah, it's short, so I can do that.
Yeah, he's an update. Okay.
Okay, so currently I'm aware of 206 DUMBS now in the U.S. I'll just go through the ones that they have that are now under white hat control that they've taken out. In Alaska, that'd be the Brooks Range DUMB and the Delta Junction Fort Greely DUMB in the Delta Junction area. In Arizona, it'd be the Fort, and I'm not going to pronounce this right. I can never pronounce it right. Fort Huacha, something like that. Luke Air Force Base, the Gates Pass Base, the Gila Mountain Base, which is near Interstate 8, approximately 30 miles east of Yuma. The Grand Wash Cliffs, which is at the western edge of the cliffs at the head of the Grapevine Wash area near highway that you get near access to it near from Highway 93 via unpaved roads. The Green Valley Base, again, not going to probably pronounce this right, the Hualapai Mountains, which is on the east side of that mountain range, about 35 miles southeast of Kingman. The Rincon Mountain, which is north side of Rincon Mountain. And they found a new one, which when they found it, they cleaned it out. It was a smaller base, but it was in Sedona, and that was built for a detainment camp for segregation of people after renegade civilian ops when they were going to do World War III. That's located near the Enchantment Resort in Boynton Canyon. It's near Sedona. The Wickiup Base and the Yucca Mountain, that was a nuclear storage base, and they got that under white hat control. And then in Arkansas, the base that is near Hardy and Cherokee Village, that was taken during Hurricane Dorian, and Pine Bluff Base is now under control. Then in California, the 29 Palms Marine Base, the China Lake Base, and remember people saw that was due to the huge earthquakes there, which the first one was 6.4 and then the aftershock is 7.1. Of course, not natural. Aftershocks are not bigger than the first shock. Then the Darwin Base, which is 4 miles due west of Darwin City, the Deep Springs, and the Edwards Air Force Base, which is in the area near Diamond Circle, which in the South Fork of the Yuba Meat.
Are we talking about
Hellendale. Go ahead.
Colorado or Arizona now?
We're in Arizona now.
Okay.
Sorry, we're in California now.
So still, okay.
Yeah, Hellendale, which is the underground Lockheed secret research facility. Los Angeles, they pretty much finally finished that massive mess down there. And that was accessed off of Highway 14 near Palmdale. You turn off of onto 170th Street to get to it and go down from the Rosamond 170th intersection. The Napa Valley, they cleaned that out. They were grabbing people from the wineries when they're tasting. You sign your name on the list and they would see who you are and find out if anybody would miss you. And that was used for white slavery and mind control, Marco, kind of things. The base that was near Palmdale went into all the way up into Presidio. So they then neutralized Presidio, as well as they did the tunnel system and the San Bernardino base that ran all the way up through the San Bernardino Valley. There was a series of earthquakes that are still smaller ones ongoing, but those started in the 14th of October, that they started cleaning that system out. The Santa Rosa base, the Sierra Nevada mountain area, which was a very deep base. The Trona base, which is near Argus Peak, it's actually under Argus Peak. The Benicia base, that was neutralized in a burnout coming out through Porter Ranch. That's where you saw the fires coming out of the manhole covers. And the guy that attacked me said it's methane gas. Has anyone ever seen methane gas burning? I've been all over the world, even in places like India, where it's in Mexico City, where it's so bad you have to hold your breath. And I still don't see them catching on fire. The Catalina Island base, the Bernicia base. Then they found a new 3 bases. These are not yet under white hat control, which are Morongo Valley, Lancaster, and a double base on that base that was in Llano. And then they've also found one in Mount Lassen, which they did clean out. The Cocoa Reef base is cleaned out, Norton Air Force Base, and the Palmdale. In Colorado, the Alamo.
By the way, that's Gene.
Yeah, sorry, let me close the door. Give me a second. My dogs are playing. Hey, can you take care of whatever Riley's problem is? She either wants out her food. Okay. Had my wife dealing with it. Okay, in Colorado, we have the Alamosa base was cleaned out. That's a huge base that goes all the way up under the San Luis Valley in Colorado, all the way up underneath the Sangre de Cristo Range and the ancient demonic stuff going on there in the Great Sand Dunes area. The Book Cliffs base has been cleaned out. That goes all the way over into Utah. The Boulder Vortex base, which is where they were going to do all the signal apparatus for controlling the Mark Ultras for end-time programming, Janus Hyannis programming. The NORAD base is cleaned out. That's in Colorado Springs. That's, the North Atlantic Defense Base, and that connects to Fort Collins, Denver, DIA, the 8 cities under DIA, or under Denver rather. That's all now under control, as well as the Grand Mesa. I actually had people that were telling me about the helicopters and the drones that were flying over. The drones we're not looking for nuclear missiles. They can see those from space satellites and track those nuclear signatures in real time within 1/100th of an inch. So they don't need drones. The drones have 2 apparatus on the front of which are FLIR, forward-looking infrared, and neutrino detectors that detect the demonics that are escaping from those bases as they're cleaning them out. There's like Swiss cheese down there, so they're escaping, and they have netting apparatus that nets them, that they then send the Black Hawk helicopters in after them once the drones find them and track them. In the Montrose area, that when connected turned out all the way up to Paradox Valley and north of Paradox, that you got into that from Highway 90 via Nucla area. The Delta base under Delta, again, that's part of the Montrose area, but that was a separate base. They cleaned that out. The San Juan Valley, which was hidden under a buffalo grazing ground, was another smaller one connected to that one as well. The Warden Valley base west of Fort Collins, the Montrose base, There's another second one they found there, and they found a new one that they haven't gotten to yet that's under Grand Junction, which is all part of that whole area. It's like New Mexico, whole thing's essentially all these interconnected bases. It's like a catacomb down there. It's hard to figure out where everything is. Then in Connecticut, there was a base they've cleaned out that's in the northwest section of Connecticut. In Florida, back during Dorian, they cleaned out the Port St. Lucie base with a tactical nuke that they got that they were going to blow up the Port St. Lucie and make it nuclear. They took the nuke to, as people remember my Dorian Decode, they took it to Grand Bahamas and made that base unusable there. The Eglin Air Force Base is cleaned out in Georgia. They're still waiting for all of the 3 bases there. They haven't gotten to Georgia yet. In Hawaii, the Alamanu and the Hana is ongoing. So if you see Hanapopo, they're still working on that, but the Alamanu crater is completely under White Hat control, but that does connect by tunnels to the Hanapopo, and they're still working.
Where's Hana?
Hana's near the Big Island.
Okay.
Between the Big Island, and it's actually under the ocean between the Big Island and Maui.
Okay, got it.
Then in Idaho, there's the lower Goose Lake area. It's in the general area of Oakley. That's being cleaned out. The south central Idaho near the Snake River goes up underneath the Twin Falls. People remember the big earthquake that happened on the western rim of the super volcano Yellowstone. They blew a lava tube and flooded that with lava, the one that goes out after the free energy devices were removed from it. They then flooded it. And that was cleaned out at the end of 2019. In Kansas, the Atchison, which is a DIPF underground facility, is cleaned out. The Kinsley base and the Hutchinson base underneath Hutchinson Hospital, which was a huge base. They also found another base near Kansas City that they haven't got to yet. In Maryland, there's the Camp David base that are cleaned out, the Fort Meade base, which is where the Hammer is, which the NSA completely took all of that over. And that's why Q always says, we have everything. That's how they have everything. Then the Olney base and the Suitland base are cleaned out. They're getting ready to do the Edgewood Arsenal. They haven't got to that. That's a massive mess again. In Massachusetts, the Maynard base is cleaned out. In Michigan, the Battle Creek, the Gwynn, and the base that's under Lake Superior, that's 5,000 feet deep under Lake Superior, are cleaned out. And they're working on the tunnels that go up from there underneath Lake Ontario up into Canada. Then in Missouri, they found Kansas City, Missouri. They found a base under there. They haven't got to it yet. In Montana, they found 2 bases that they haven't gotten to yet. The Bozeman under the Montana State University in Bozeman, that's dealing with hybriding genetic monsters. There's a base there. They haven't got to that yet. And Mount Greena, it's near the border of Canada there. In Nebraska, they found a base. They haven't got to it yet. It's in Kinsley, a new one, besides the other 2 that were in my original Decode, which were North Central and Red Willow near McCook. And then in Nevada, the Blue Diamond base is cleaned out. The Groom Lake, they cleaned that out last month. That's big, huge. Everybody knows all about Groom Lake and Area 51. And that's been done in the last 30 days. Also, the 2 large facilities near Groom Lake, which are the Papoose Range and Cockeyed Ridge S4 underground bases, are cleaned out. And then in New Hampshire, let me see if there's anything done. All those bases are still under Dark Hat. They haven't got to that yet. New Jersey, they haven't got to yet. New Mexico, they've just finally started getting, because pretty much half of New Mexico is a base. It used to be the Dulce, the Alamogordo, the Sandia labs under the Sandia Mountains down to White Sands. And so all of that was interconnected, and they just started going in. I had a person I was actually emailing at the time, and I saw the earthquake going off in Santa Fe, which is up in the mountains there, which is rather unusual. So he got in his truck and drove out there and said he actually saw the black helicopters flying in, the base door being blown off, and people going into that. So they're just making entrances to start on the huge mess in New Mexico. And they have cleaned out the Cordova base already now in New Mexico. In New York, They've cleaned out the Adirondack Mountain Base, which is near Elizabethtown, as well as the New York metro area. In North Carolina, they did now find a base there that's in Morganton Base, which is in the Brown Mountain area. In Oklahoma, it's ongoing for the last 2 months. They're cleaning out massive situation, which is the Ada Ashland. All that ammunition's deep on Ashland, Ada, all the way up through the corner of Oklahoma and down through mid-Oklahoma. They're cleaning that out. You'll see ongoing earthquakes, all those 2.6, 2.8, which have not had earthquakes in over 80 years. Are now ongoing constant earthquakes for the last 2 months. And Oregon, they cleaned out the Cave Junction, which is near Hope Mountain, close to Applegate Lake. In Texas, the Denton Base, which was a female regional center, and the Fort Stockton Base are cleaned out. In Utah, they cleaned out the Dugway underneath the Dugway Proving Grounds, the base there, and the Kennecott Copper Company, which is where the LDS Church had all their gold. They cleaned that out and repatriated the gold to the U.S. Treasury for when they put in Asara. The Granite Mountain, they found 4 new bases in Utah because of that. They found the Granite Mountain, the Mount Nebo, Salem, and Twin Peaks bases. They have not started working on those yet. In Virginia, they've cleaned up the Mount Weather base, which is in Bluemont. Under Arlington, the Pentagon, they cleaned that base. The Treasure Island base was taken during Hurricane Dorian. Then in Washington, they found some new bases there. The Mount St. Helens base, which after that calmed down, they built a base inside it. And so there's now one in there, which is they found it due to the electromagnetic and ultrasound, subsound research they're doing. They caught the signals from satellites and they went and mapped the base out. They haven't got to it yet, as well as underneath the Yakima Indian Reservation. The elders there were telling them, so they went and researched that. That's under the Topanesh Ridge, and there's a tunnel that they found that goes into that. They're getting ready to do that, but they haven't got there, as well as under Mount Rainier. They found ancient Lemurian, huge underground records there. That was found by a man named F.I. Boschke. He wrote about that, and they were researching that. He had actually gone in there underneath the ice cap area, found old caves and tunnels back in August of 1970. And he found a huge underground lake that connects to a base that's deep under there. So we'll be working on that in the future. In DC, they've cleaned out and taken the base that was under the White House, which is Iron Mountain. And in West Virginia, the White Sulphurs base, Sulphur Springs base, which is, of course, the Greenbrier Hotel. And those are the bases other than the main state bases. Then in Puerto Rico, as people know, there's earthquakes there in the Guayanaco area. And they've been taking that out, as well as San Antonio. And those go all the way over up into the Cayman Islands, into Havana, out to Belize. You saw the earthquakes in the Cayman Islands that were taking out that intersection for the child trafficking they were doing, going from Haiti, the Cayman Islands, Havana, Cuba, Belize, down to Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. They're working on all that now currently. Then in Mexico, they took out 2 that was one under Mexico City, the other under Teotihuacan. Then in New Zealand, they're currently working on one that's going up through a tunnel that comes from Wellington, that goes out through the northern part in the Anu area. And they're looking and mapping out the massive mess under Pine Gap in Australia, Mount Zeal, Canberra, and the Snowy Mountains. So they haven't got to that. Indonesia, they took out the Samlaki base. New Caledonia, they took out the Isle of Hunter base. In Iran, remember the plant that they took out that was underneath the nuclear power plant? They did a deep earthquake using satellite weapons and took that one out. In Japan, they took out the base in Iwo Jima. In the Philippines, they took out Mindoro, Magsaysay, and Davao base down in Mindanao. That was a series of 3 earthquakes that collapsed the building where they were doing the trafficking out, and killed 26 people that were involved in that in the building, because they would not surrender. So they went down with the building. And I think we're done. Yeah, we're done with dumps.
Talk about the one between Jamaica and
yeah, that was the Jamaica, Cayman Islands, Puerto Rico, Havana, Cuba, Belize, all that's interconnected. Oh, I did, since you mentioned that, that reminded me they are currently working on the Rift Tunnel system, that's ancient Atlantean tech, of a huge submarine system, as well as a high-speed rail system that goes down through Chile. There, you'll see it going all the way down through Chile. Earthquake small 2.8, so I have to be very careful there, of course, because that's the north, the mid-Pacific ridge actually comes up onto the continent there. So you have part of Chile is on the Atlantic plate and part of Chile is on the Pacific plate. And so there's a tunnel system that they use for the rift that they're cleaning that out now as well.
So that one that they took down there that caused the earthquake in Miami, the one that they took down between Cuba and Jamaica, right? That was earthquake.
Yeah, that's all part of the interconnection. That whole thing's a big, huge hub of tunnels where they take people, from Miami, they bring them up into Miami for the elites when they come there on vacation, from Belize, from Havana,
right,
from Haiti, from Dominican Republic, all of that. Philippines, or not Philippines, Puerto Rico, sorry.
So basically when you look it up for the deep underground bases, it says 168, and now you said what, up to 200 and what?
206 now.
206, and what percentage of the U.S. ones are cleaned out?
We're at about almost 2/3.
2/3, so like 70%?
66 and 2/3%.
Okay, so we're winning basically.
Oh yeah, and those deep bases in New Zealand, they're using neutron bombs because they're 800 miles down.
Oh, God.
They're very, very deep.
The
really
U.S.
deep.
is allowed to take out bases in New Zealand.
Yep, 5 eyes.
Okay, I got it. Okay, great. All right, so what was I going to say to you? Okay, so now let's talk about the coronavirus. The link I'm going to put on this video is a referral from Gene. The guy's amazing, and it's for stuff that is going to boost your immune system, right, Gene?
Yes, and on the coronavirus, it's really, really become quite obvious to everybody that it's genetically engineered. It has insertions in mid-sequence that are from the AIDS virus, as well as viruses. There was a study up near China in Nagaland where they were taking studies on bats, viruses carried by bats that are Ebola, SARS, and the coronavirus, of course. And so they genetically engineered that, and they were doing that down in, it was taken from the India Research Lab as well as from another lab.
You know the name of that research lab in India?
Yeah, let me get down to where that was. Hold on, it's got out of sequence there for me, but I can get it down. Tata Institute of Fundamental Research.
Yeah.
And there were 12 different researchers involved in that. Mm-hmm. They were researching to create that virus so it would become airborne, which it now is. And that was at the PLOS, Neglected Tropical Diseases Journal. The filoviruses by bats were discussed by Bill Gates, and he made the statement at a conference in 2017. Let me see where I can find that here. I have that written down somewhere. Sorry, I'm a little out of it today. A fast-moving airborne pathogen could kill 30 million people inside a year, or excuse me, in less than a year. And he mentioned that, he said that statement at a Munich security conference in 2017. So lo and behold, how coincidental, now we have one. And that was funded by him as well through his Probius research lab.
Probot Foundation. And also they have it's a mutated virus that has all the SARS and the AIDS in it, and the infection, you know, of SARS was about 2 feet ratio, and I mean the what do you call it, the distance, and this one is 6 feet, so they can infect you from 6 feet away.
Yeah, that was when it was not airborne. Now it's airborne. As soon as it gets spring, it'll be carried up by birds and bats into the jet stream, and it'll go worldwide. And it has been engineered specifically to target an adaptation of Chinese people to tuberculosis. All Asian people, when they're swiped for tuberculosis, they come up positive, but they are carriers. They don't get it. And so the reason is that their lungs adapted with a type of different areoli, which is what absorbs the oxygen in your lungs. White people, black people have regular ones, and other types other than Asian. Asian have what are called ACE2 receptors in their lungs for absorbing the oxygen, which is an adaptation so they don't get tuberculosis. And so they targeted that adaptation mechanism, like you see with black people that have sickle cell anemia, which is an adaptation so they don't get malaria. So in the Asian people, they engineered this virus to attack specifically Asian people, which worldwide is about almost 2 billion people. And so it's a very powerful way to reduce, you know, Bill Gates is big into reducing human population. And so like he did with that statement, it could kill 30 million people in a year. So now it is airborne, and they're not, like you said earlier, Kirsten, they're not telling you the statistics. They're lying like crazy. In Wuhan, now it's also gone to 2 other cities in China, 4 and 600 miles south of Wuhan. They've got it isolated. They've built 11. They're building 9 more hospitals. They built already 2 hospitals, if you want to call them that. I saw pictures from inside there. If you go to Deception Bites, she has some of the pictures of these supposed hospitals. They have bars on the walls, on the cells, more not really rooms for the people that get the AIDS, the coronavirus. And then the doors are only open, they can only be open from the outside. So once they put you in there, you can't get out. Where they feed you through is a little cubicle-like window that they can slide your plate for food through there. And that's only accessible from the outside as well. There's no outlets, there's no toilets, there's no water inside the cells. And they have 1,000 of these cells, like in the supposed hospital. All the windows have bars. There's doors that go, big, huge doors that go into a crematorium. The crematoriums, the 11 crematoriums that can take each 400 people. They used to only run 5 hours during the day. They're running 24 hours a day now. Each one can take, that means if you take the number that each one can process, it's up to 840 people can be cremated a day. They're running 24 hours a day, as I said. They have a big, huge area that's 17 square miles where they put a whole bunch of great tents up and how to put people in that are infected. It has a moat surrounded with military surrounded around that. For people that are they welded their doors shut. They have to pass the bodies out through their windows. They give them food once a week. For the people that are dying in their apartments where they have steel welded over their doors.
Yeah, they seal them in their houses, right?
Yes, if you're caught on the street and they know you're infected, they have detectors for detecting a fever. They're shooting people in the head. There's blood in the street. There's bodies in the
they're
street.
killing the sick people. And I saw videos of there was a drone talking Chinese to some old lady in Mongolia saying, "Auntie, why are you out here? Shouldn't you be home? And where's your mask?" And then to an old guy, the drone did the same thing. It was like echoing. There's video of that too.
Yes, and that's all over Wuhan and the 2 cities. They have drones all over the place telling people to stay in your homes. If you're not, we already know what will happen to you, as they said. And the new hospital they built that's like a prison is in, you can correct my Chinese here, I'm terrible, Wushenshan?
Wushenshan.
Okay. Yep.
Wushenshan, it's something Wushing Mountain. That's what it means. Sun
Yeah.
Mountain.
And now, because of all the dead people all over the street, there's massive, massive flocks of crows, which are carrion eaters, coming in.
Oh,
Yup. So it's just like the Black Plague again, all over
do you
again.
think that our president has it under control, or do you think it's
Well, President Xi has not been seen in 2 weeks, and then he just came out yesterday. They're not sure if he may be infected as well. So their government doesn't have it under control. It could be easily controlled and cured in a matter of a few days with something like MMS or hydrogen peroxide cleansing.
I heard that they were treating some people with AIDS medication and they got cured, and 187 were cured, I think, so far.
269 now.
Cured.
But they're still infectious. They're carriers after they're cured.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so they made it so it works that way. You cure somebody, now they're a carrier, and anybody they come in contact with, it's within 6 feet. Again, they get it. So.
And who paid for this? Let's just get into it. Department of Defense paid for.
Yeah. So the fundamental research was through the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, which is a big pay-for-play group funded by the U.S.
Yes.
And then China controls the WHO. They do the major donations for controlling the WHO. So
the World Health Organization.
Yep. And they do that through the money they get from the Federal Reserve and the World Banks. And the institute in Wuhan that was in charge of that, the 12 researchers with the Wuhan Institute of Virology and the National Center for Biological Sciences. Then the Bill Gates Foundation was then funding and sending their research to those agencies. And Dr. Francis Boyle was trying to make it illegal through the Bioweapons Act, and he was stopped.
I mean, when are we going to get these people arrested, or are we just trying to stop the plague right now?
Right now, they're dealing with trying to stop the plague, and they did this fake thing about showing it was bats in a market, and that market they showed was in Indonesia. It wasn't in China.
Not even China, right?
Yeah, it's like they do, the same thing with the battle in Iran, and it turned out they're showing all those weapons firing, and it turned out
it was a shooting range in wherever the south somewhere.
Yeah, so they're doing the same thing with this. They're lying about the figures. They said there's only a few thousand deaths. There's actually over now 154,023 deaths and 269,000 over infected. That's just in Wuhan. It's not talking about the other two cities as well. Now Taiwan has 11 cases. One person's died in the Philippines. Singapore has cases. Thailand has.
I was planning to go home. No, are you saying that we shouldn't go anywhere?
Not in Asia. Thailand has cases. Cambodia has cases.
Well,
Malaysia has cases.
Not go anywhere.
Anywhere where there's Asian people. Take a vacation and go to Australia.
But I gotta go home. But I mean, how long do you think it'll be before that will be? Yeah.
Well, when it's airborne, it can be infectious for 14 days.
But
when
I
a body
have the
dies,
so I shouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, you can just take some bottles of MMS with you, and
there you go.
You can go home and take a whole bunch of bottles in your luggage and help everybody you know.
Yeah, my dad's getting older. Okay, well, I think, did we cover all of that? We covered all of it, right?
Yes, and I wanted to go into a little bit on the State of the Union because there was an assassination attempt there.
Okay.
So if you watch the video when Trump is leaving, Justice Roberts goes up to shake his hand and Trump reaches out, and his security pushes Trump's hand back down because Chief Justice Robert had a device like you saw in Dune where you prick the person with a poison.
Someone said that Nancy Pelosi had one too, and he wouldn't shake her hand either.
That's why he wouldn't shake her hand, because she had the same type of device as well. But Trump saw that one and he knew about that. He'd already been told. He saw that in her hand just to make sure, he'd been told about it. And so he didn't shake her hand either. And of course, the mainstream fake media went all over it like, oh, we have the hand of friendship always extended. And he wouldn't even shake her hand.
Yeah, but I mean, Justice Roberts is fully compromised. I thought he had some decency about him, but why would he be wanting to be involved in murder? That's so crazy.
He's just a cabal tool.
Now he is. He used to be conservative.
Yeah.
And everyone, I've tweeted it all over Twitter that, it's because his 2 children were illegally adopted from Ireland, and you can't take children out of Ireland. That's illegal.
Yes.
Yes, it's illegal. Okay, I think we're covered, right? Thank you so much for coming back on. And
thank you, Kirsten, for your help.
Yeah, and we will put this on tomorrow. This will be Gene's, everyone's waiting for Gene. That was a big decode. Oh my gosh, from the DUMBS to the corona crown virus.
Yeah,
okay.
Some help from Kirsten this time on the corona.
Okay, definitely. And Rick can have that too.
Yep.
Okay, and definitely we will put the link for the cure, or can we say cure, or what can we say, Gene?
It makes the body impermeable to it, and it destroys any parasites within the body. The first AIDS trials in Africa on MMS, 300 volunteers that had a week to live, 299 were HIV negative in 3 days and went back to work the following week.
Wow. And so it's like a block. It's like a blocker, basically.
Yes, it's you can get the book by Jim Humble, like humble pie, Humble. It's called The Master Mineral Solution. And it goes into how to use it. And then there's links in there where to get it. The place I get it is called Keeves, K-E-A.
Yeah, I put the link. I have that link. That's the guy
okay.
I'm with. His name is.
All right. Thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you so much, Gene. That's Gene's recommendation, by the way. And Gene's been doing it for how many years? A long time, right?
Let me think. 20 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we'll do that. We'll get.
So, I want to say I'm neither a licensed medical professional, a doctor. These are theory, but that I practice. What you do is under your own cognizance and your own authority. I do not have authority or knowledge over you or for you. What you do is entirely your prerogative, right. And it's either licensed or authorized.
It's all natural stuff anyway, so yeah.
Correct. It's just something your body actually makes anyway. You're just augmenting your body by a couple billion times.
Right. Okay, thank you so much. And we'll see Gene when he has a chance. He's so busy. Okay.
Thank you, Kirsten. Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
it. Good afternoon.
Good night. Okay.
Night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay.